Okay, I'll call to order the Tuesday, December 5th, 2017 meeting of the Iredell County Board of Commissioners. At this time, if you'll please join us in a moment of silent prayer and reflection. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Smith, if you'll please summarize any adjustments to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we have two adjustments, and they're both under closed session. The first item is a personnel issue, and that's under General Statute 143-318, 11A6. And the second is a property acquisition, and that's 143-318, 11A5.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as adjusted?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Haupt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. There are no presentations of any special recognitions or awards this evening. We had one matter, an appointment before the board from the Town of Troutman that we discussed at the pre-agenda meeting, and we'll be revisiting that 2 weeks from now. So we move into item 7, public hearings on our agenda. The first is a public hearing for consideration of an economic development incentive for Project Eager. So if Mr. Chris Younger, representing the Iredell County Development Corporation or Greater Statesville Regional Development or Mooresville South Iredell Economic Development, which hat are you wearing?
You could take your pick, really. This particular project would be more focused in Mooresville. I'd like to thank you, Board and our Chairman, for allowing us to present before you this evening. Iredell County Economic Development is proud to announce Project Eager's potential plans for a new manufacturing facility to be located in Iredell County. At this time, the company requests to remain known as Project Eager until a final location selection has been finalized by their corporate office. They are a manufacturer of automotive parts, and their plans would be to build a 215,000 square foot facility on 19 to 25 acres, which will be determined soon, in the Mooresville Business Park East. This project would create 302 full-time positions and generate $23.6 million in new tax investment. The project would expect to be completed by the end of 2018. In accordance to the Iredell County Industrial Development Incentive Program, we're requesting tax grant-back incentive be granted to Project Eager in the amount up to $83,834 per year for 6 years, totaling up to $503,000. A land reduction allowance of $500 per acre, which should total between $9,500 and $12,500, depending on the size of the acreage lot that they choose. In addition, we are requesting a grant up to $15,000 to assist with temporary office space while they build their new facility. All total, the incentive award could amount up to $530,500. On behalf of the Iredell County Economic Development, I'd like to thank you for your consideration of this matter and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Younger. Are there any questions from the board at this time? If not, I'll open this public hearing. I do not see that anyone has signed up to be heard, and I would inquire of anyone attending if you would like to be heard. Seeing and hearing none, I'll close this public hearing and ask if there is a motion to be entertained.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve an economic incentive not to exceed, at start, $503,000 over a 6-year period for Project Eager based on the company's investment of $23.6 million and contingent upon a contract being executed within 180 days. Further, to approve a land reduction allowance of $500 per acre for land to be purchased in the Mooresville Business Park East, not to exceed a total of $12,500, and the allocation of up to $15,000 from the Economic Development Fund to be applied towards rent for temporary office space located in Iredell County for a total of $530,500 in incentives.
Any further discussion? I would ask Mr. Younger, did you have an estimate on the number of jobs to be created in this?
302.
302 jobs. Okay. Motion by Commissioner McNeely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you very much for your hard work and bringing the project and putting us in such a highly competitive position.
Thank you very much. Staff has put a lot of time and effort into this. The whole office, both in Mooresville and Statesville. And so we appreciate the vote of confidence in approving these incentives, and the company appreciates it very much. They want to extend their thanks for the incentive award, and they look forward to making a decision real soon.
Okay.
Thank you for your work, and also tell them thank you for their investment in Iredell County.
Thank you.
Not so fast. Hold on. We do have, it's not a public hearing, but we have a motion.
It's called for.
Call for a public.
Okay. I don't know if you need to enlighten us any on Project Z before we do the call for the public motion, or for the public hearing.
Yeah, we sure can. Russ Rogerson, Executive Director, will actually be handling Project Z as far as that motion would be concerned. If he'd like, he could shed some more details on it.
This is a matter that we were briefed on in closed session prior to our meeting at the 7 o'clock hour. So,
Yes, sir. We requested that the board would please call a public hearing to consider incentives for Project Z. That would be an investment up to $16 million, would hire 91 people over a period of 2 years, and they would be locating in the Statesville area.
And did you have an average wage?
Yes, sir. The average wage is $47,705.
And for clarification, Z is spelled X-I.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to call for a public hearing on December the 19th, 2017 at 7 p.m. regarding an economic development incentive of $310,000 over a 5-year period for Project Z based on a $16 million investment in Iredell County. Like I said, if you're not fluid in Mandarin like me and Russ and a few others, it's XI.
XI.
But we know what it is. Code.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner McNeely. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carries unanimously. Thank you
Excellent.
again, Mr. Rogerson.
Thank you. Look forward to bringing more information about this project forward, and appreciate all your help.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 7.2 on the agenda, which is a public hearing for the consideration of an amendment to the Personnel Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that has been in discussion for about a month now. We came to the board at our last meeting. The county has a policy in place where employees can accrue up to 240 hours of vacation to be carried over to from year to year. Anything over that, up to 80 hours, is able to be put into the sick bank, basically, and will go toward that employee's retirement. However, if there's any hours that they accrue over the 80, then those hours are lost. And what we are coming here tonight is to request that policy be changed to lift the cap on the number of hours that can be carried over into sick. 240 hours would remain the limit on the vacation hours. However, anything over that would then be pushed over into sick time. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Smith?
I just wanted to clarify that I think the comments we're getting back from staff to our board has made a conscious effort with the county manager and other senior staff and Sandra to identify ways to recruit, retain, and attract employees by identifying measures to help compete with the private sector, other counties and municipalities. And this is just one measure that I think will definitely do that. And great feedback from staff that I've talked to, and wanted to thank all of us and senior staff and Sandra for continuing to improve those efforts to help us compete in the marketplace for top quality employees.
Okay. Any further comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to also reiterate on this. In discussing this, come to find out, we may be, if not the only, of a very few counties that have not picked up this policy and done it. So I feel like if we want to be the place where you want to live and work and raise a family, we want that to be for our employees, not just our citizens, for everybody. And so I think this is probably overdue, and I hope it gives some solace to some.
And just in time for Christmas.
Exactly.
Any further discussion? Comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Actually, this is a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. All right.
ahead of ourselves.
I'm going to open the public hearing, and I don't have anybody listed as desiring to be heard, so I would inquire if there's anyone that would like to be heard on this matter. Okay. Seeing and hearing none, close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make that motion. Motion to amend Article 5, Section 5+D of the Arthur County Personnel Policy to lift the 80-hour cap on accumulated leave hours that can be converted to sick time.
Motion by Commissioner Norman. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 7.3. This is a public hearing from the Planning and Development Commission to conduct a public hearing in regard to text amendments to the Land Development Code. So, Mr. Todd?
Good evening to the board. Over the last year, staff and planning board have been working on a set of text amendments, pretty wide in the range of topics, and it's in order to move our ordinance, to continue to make our ordinance a better ordinance, looking at past experiences, also current topics, and trying to make those text amendments up to date with general statutes, user-friendly, several other aspects to them as well. But essentially, just in review, the first chapter that had some text amendments was the performance requirements chapter, and this deals with specific uses and those specific regulations associated with those. And again, we just tried to make that chapter compliant with the general statutes, update cross-references to different organizations, and address concerns we've heard over the years, specifically even most recently this year. Chapter 5 with the landscaping section, we've been dealing Our landscaping section, we actually had overhauled it last year, I believe. Feel it's a very good document. But one issue that kind of had surfaced is with some of the emergency service facilities that are being built throughout the county, there's a landscaping requirement that was impeding with some of their sight triangles and being able to pull out of those stations and be able to look left and right on the road, make sure it was clear. Our landscaping requirements, we're going to have an impact on that and impede that. So we put an exception in there for those specifically. And that also tied in with Chapter 10, making some adjustments to the driveway connections specifically for those users. They're different than a standard driveway access for commercial use or residential. They're not full access and they're only used sporadically, so we felt it appropriate to make some adjustments for those uses. Along with some TIA requirements in the code that require basically any size business that was locating next to an interchange to produce a TIA. This was going to prove burdensome, especially to your smaller users, your small businesses, and we elected to remove that from that section. Also, with Chapter 11 and 9, there's been a lot of discussion on our conditional zoning process. Right now, currently, it's not really meant for speculative zoning. You got to really know what you're planning to do in order to use it. We've been struggling with it for a while, and we decided to amend it to where the site plan is not part of that requirement. They can still do conditional. They can come up with specific conditions regarding buffers, regarding landscaping, and any other conditions. And it may be that they decide or the board decides to ask for a site plan, but they don't have to produce it right off the bat. So I think that's going to add some flexibility to that process, and hopefully some folks, when conditional zoning is needed, they'll be able to go that route and not have the heartburn like they would have had previously. So that's just a quick summary of those text amendments, and like I said, Planning Board did vote 7-0 in favor of those text amendments.
Any questions from Mr. Todd?
Mr. Todd, can you go over a little more specifically the TIA part of it?
Sure. Let me flip to that section. Currently, right now, the TIA is required based on 5 different things can trip when a TIA is required. A subdivision with over 100 or more lots or units, new developments or expansions, that could be residential or commercial, where they're going to generate over 1,000 plus vehicles per day or 100 plus trips per peak traffic hour. New schools with student enrollment over 100 would trip a TIA. And then the one that we're proposing to remove was number 4, where it said new developments within 1,000 linear feet of an interstate interchange measured along the road where the development will have access. That's the one we're proposing to remove. Because basically one of these other requirements or the next one's going to capture those users that are going to have an impact based on traffic count. So the 5th one, new developments that include any part of or frontage on a designated street or thoroughfare on the current state adopted tip and proposed to generate on average daily traffic count of 500 plus vehicles per day or 100 plus trips during peak traffic hour. So again, it's just, the TIA requirement staying in the code is just removing that one requirement for an interchange because it seemed like it was only going to penalize certain users. I don't know that it was going to capture any development that one of the others wasn't going to capture if it was needed to produce a TIA.
Has that requirement hindered or been problematic in the past?
Number 4, I don't think we'd seen it yet.
So why are we removing it if it hasn't been problematic?
Because we've not experienced. When you look at the interchanges that fall within the county's jurisdiction, you're going to take 36 out of the equation. You're going to take 42. You're going to take a lot of those interchanges where the development's occurring. Those are going to be controlled by the towns anyway. So, we're left with, Stamey Farm interchange, Tomlin Mill interchange, the interchanges that are on the outside. So those interchanges really don't see that much development now. So that's why we've not really seen which the TIA section was fairly new.
Is there a way to word it to where it leaves can the requirement be optional based on planning board or staff request without removing it altogether, or does it automatic? I heard you say one of the other areas was going to pick it up, but it's not automatic, correct?
Not automatic. So again,
would you not want to leave something in there that gives you as a planning board member or the zoning board the option of requiring it per the request without just taking it out?
I think one of those other four, though, would give us enough that if it's a use that's going to need a TIA, it's going to most likely fall into one of those other four. Plus, you do have DOT that requires TIAs when it crosses their thresholds as well. So you do have some measures in place. And really, with the conditional request, if you got one, you could require that regardless of what it not being in the
That
code.
was my question. Just why were we taking it out if it has not been a problem for you?
I'm anticipating that it will sooner or later. That's gonna affect a smaller scale business that's gonna have to produce a TIA. It's gonna cost them some money, and it's just not really going to be needed for those smaller businesses unless they're falling into one of those other categories already.
Okay.
And again, you still do kind of have the option, if it's, through the state possibly picking it up, through a conditional zoning, if we felt the need, we could make it a recommendation that they have.
I just didn't know if you wanted to leave it there and make it an option of staff or the county or the planning board without taking it out. As long as that would give you the option. I didn't know if that was a possibility or not. I'm just trying to give you I'm trying to give you the flexibility to protect a potential business owner without a punishment type of a requirement, but give you the option if you think it would be needed where we wouldn't have it if we remove it altogether.
Well, and personally, I like the sound of that, but as Lisa can speak, we have to be careful on giving me too much authority as far as picking and choosing. You have to really spell it out, which I think hopefully those other four requirements would spell it out when it's going to.
Would that not be some part of it, just like the conditional stuff now? We have things that we look at for conditions that we would impose or not impose depending on case-by-case basis.
Well, yeah, if it's conditional, then certainly it could still come back into play and be one of the conditions that we would suggest if we felt it was needed.
I would point out, though, that if you leave it in there, it's a requirement the way it's written. And I think that's what he's trying to eliminate.
Yeah, that's what I did. I just was trying to make sure if he ever felt it would be beneficial that we just don't wipe it out. If there was a way to do it a little different or amend what he's got in there now, to instead of wiping it out, leave him the potential of using it if necessary, since it has not been a problem yet.
I think he's addressed that. I think we can all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, I'm good. I just had that request. Has it been a problem? I didn't know.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Any further comments or questions? Okay. At this time, I will open the public hearing and inquire if since I don't have anybody signed up, I once again inquire of anyone attending if they would like to be heard on this matter. Seeing or hearing none, close the public hearing and ask if there's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve, to recommend approval of the zoning text amendment and to make a finding that the approval is consistent with the adopted 2030 Horizon Plan and that said approval is reasonable and in the public interest and furthers the goals of the 2030 Horizon Plan because it aims to create compliance with NC General Statute changes, addresses common zoning issues, and address industry changes.
Motion by Commissioner Haupt. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would add that anything that we can do to encourage small business to expand and locate, I think we need to take that step. I really do.
And I will call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Todd, please convey our appreciation to your staff and the planning board for proactively reviewing regulatory guidance and looking for opportunities to lessen burdensome requirements and to ensure that we are keeping up with changes not only driven by the state, but driven by your own experience. That's very much appreciated. I know it takes a lot of time, and no one's breathing down your neck to make sure it happens. That's why so many regulatory schemes stay on the books for years and years until people don't know why you're doing what you're doing. So appreciate the time and effort you guys take. Okay, now we'll now move on to a public hearing considering the closing of Fern Valley Way and Moss Creek Way, which is located off Old Lion Road, and consider an adoption of an order to close said roads. Mr. Todd?
This request is based on a subdivision, I believe it's platted back in 2005, off Sharon School Road, West Iredell. The current owner is requesting that the right-of-ways be abandoned so they can redevelop the property, and we've not heard any opposition to date. And again, this one seems to be an ideal candidate to abandon those right-of-ways. They were never put in place, and if it was developed as is, it could potentially cause some pretty serious issues as far as having homes built on roads that are not in existence. So staff is recommending this one be approved. And I know the applicant, Steve Rogers, is in attendance.
Any questions? I'll open the public hearing, and I will note that Steve Rogers has indeed signed up. Would you like to be heard? Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? I don't believe so. Save a few steps. Would anyone else like to be heard on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, close this public hearing, and I'll ask if there's any further discussion. And is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Norman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Thank you, Mr. Todd. We will now move on to items on the administrative that are administrative in nature, some of which are appropriate for the consent agenda. Let's go ahead and do the items on the consent agenda.
Okay. Starting with item 7 or 8.3, in the pre-agenda meeting earlier, there was a request from risk management, Gene Hahn, for review and approval of public official bonds renewal according to General Statute 58-72-50. 8.4, a request from the Finance Department for approval of an amended project ordinance for the North Iredell High School and South Iredell High School capital project funds. This amendment does not mean that those projects are over budget in any way. It's just moving of some money. 8.5, a request from Tax Administration for approval to renew the legal contract to provide tax foreclosure services for Iredell County. And this is with Zacchaeus Law Services and has been in place since 2012. 8.6, a request from Emergency Management and Fire Services for approval to allow Iredell County Rescue to withdraw $9,111 from their capital reserve to replace a boat motor. 8.7, a request from Planning and Development to consider approving Iredell County to apply for the 2018 Essential Single-Family Rehabilitation Program cycle from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. 8.8, request from the clerk to the board for approval of the minutes from November 21st, 2017. 8.9, a request to amend the economic incentive contract with Star Hagen to put the proper timeline in place. 8.10, To purchase property located at the corner of B Street and Westminster Drive, which is adjacent to county-owned property, in the amount of $50,000. This is actually going to be done through 2 budget cycles as a special appropriation in FY19 and FY20, and this is buying the property from the Statesville Housing Authority. And 8.11, purchase the property located at 422 Bristol Drive in the amount of $125,000. And actually that is higher than the purchase price, but that's going to include closing costs and such. And to approve budget amendment number 15A to move this money from fund balance.
There any further discussion on those administrative matters that were reviewed on the consent agenda? Is there a motion?
Make a motion we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Howe. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. I'll now circle back to item 8.1, which is our annual election of a chairman and vice chairman for the calendar year 2018 that begins the December meeting, first meeting in December, and approval of the 2018 meeting calendar, which has been included in our packet. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make the motion that we keep the same chair and same vice chair.
A motion by Commissioner Norman. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously, and thank you for your collective confidence, and I appreciate working shoulder to shoulder with all of you as a great team. We'll now move on to item 8.2, which is a request from...
Mr. Chairman, the 2018 meeting calendar, was that included?
He put that, he included
okay.
that.
My apologies.
Okay. You're not included.
For one of those, I am.
Okay, item 8.2, which is a request from administration for approval of a 1-year contract with our county attorney, Lisa Valdez. Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make that motion that we would continue the relationship or contract or whatever it is.
And I think collectively we extend our appreciation for your insightful and always on-point legal analysis and advice, and trying to herd cats on occasion.
And the facial prompting that she does as well.
Yes, I don't know that the record captures that.
See, one of my New Year's resolutions is to challenge Lisa a little bit more with, I can't believe you're going to do that. That's what I hear from her.
Okay. All right, motion by Vice Chairman Bowles. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously.
You said it so much, it's lost all meaning.
Move on to item 10. We have no announcements of vacancies this evening because we had a whole slew to announce previously. We have condensed the appointment process from sort of a sequential one that fell throughout the year to a consolidated approach a couple times a year. The appointments to boards and commissions, item 10.1, and I'd ask Mr. Smith if you could announce those applicants for the various boards and commissions.
Mr. Chairman, we have a number of boards here, so bear with me. The first is the Carolina Regional Partnership. There's one appointment, and Larry Schaefer has volunteered to serve again. For the Public Health Board, one appointment. Sylvia Chapman has volunteered to serve again. Advisory Committee for Home and Community Care Block Grant, 2 appointments. Anna Rice and Denise Blair have volunteered to serve again. The Nursing Home Advisory Board, 3 appointments. Linda Piriano, Colleen Caldwell, and Brenda Spees have volunteered to serve again. The Personnel Advisory Board, 2 appointments. Cindy Smale and Charles Page have volunteered to serve. Recreation Advisory Board, 4 appointments. Chris Campbell, Pam Christopher, Kevin Smith, and Melissa Jablonski have volunteered to serve again. Transportation Advisory Board, 5 appointments. Susan Gray, Teresa Myers, Rosa Foster, David Crosby, and Amanda Udi have volunteered to serve again. And the Zoning Board of Adjustment, 2 appointments. Robert Dellinger has volunteered to serve again, and David Amon has volunteered to serve for the first time.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the appointments to the boards and commissions that have been read into the record by County Manager Smith?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Houp. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And we do want to thank all of the appointees, those citizens who have volunteered their time and talent to be able to provide us and their fellow citizens advice and counsel relative to these important areas of our government intersection with people's lives as well as businesses and the planning aspect and the Board of Adjustment, all these things that eventually find their way to this board have been very thoroughly reviewed and vetted by these commissions along the way. So we thank you for your service and willingness to participate. Item 11, unfinished business. I believe Commissioner McNeely has an update.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned in the last meeting, I took a jaunt to Raleigh, North Carolina, a very lovely town with a great athletic and very qualified university there also. So anyway, with that being said, though, the Ag Steering Committee for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners held their meeting along with the Environmental Steering Committee. We're still in the process of pushing our legislative goals from this year going forward as the way the sessions fall in the General Assembly. 2 things we did talk about. One, on the agriculture side, as it's been stated lately in the paper and well known in the ag community, our dairy farmers have suffered mightily for the last year and a half, and the projections are it's going to be at least another half a year or maybe even longer. We're not sure before it's going to come out, and they've been economically devastated, especially the small farms. And one of the things that I had sort of brought up and we had kicked around, and now they pretty much told me that they're willing to let me go forward and do the work, is looking at how much of local milk is actually utilized in milk plants, processing plants in North Carolina. And we're hoping to find an average of what we produce in our state and then what's brought in. And if there's a processing plant out there that's at least meeting the minimum of utilization, then we're going to try to strive to where on maybe the cap or on the jug somewhere or another got to be North Carolina agriculture, putting the stamp on it so people realize they're possibly grabbing a jug and it's local milk, not something brought in from Ohio, Indiana, wherever where a lot of the bigger dairies are at that are causing some of our hardship. So that's a project that I'm going to probably take to task and work real hard with a few other commissioners. One other thing that was mentioned was House Bill, I think 58, which concerned solid waste. And at the time it went through, it got vetoed by the governor, but then passed. It didn't have much impact on the state of North Carolina, or it did on the state of North Carolina, but on the county of Iredell, until we realized there was a piece added to it that referred to the 50 feet of shoreline on the Catawba River Basin, the Noose, and the PD. So if you had land on any of those river basins, which is Lake Norman, Lake Lookout, that's in Iredell County, those first 50 feet of shoreline coming into your lot would possibly not be taxed, which would be quite devastating to Iredell County with our shoreline. I think it was looked up. We thought it was about 4,000 acres and about $1 million worth of tax we could not collect. And further looking into it and talking to Representative John Fraley, though, it is a study at this time to see the effects of that legislation was passed, the proposal. So we will keep a violent watch to make sure that that doesn't happen, because that could be very detrimental to Iredell County and what we're doing. I'm not really sure the premise behind it, why it would be necessary for this law. And when I first heard it, I thought, well, this is really easy. We'll just extend everybody's lot 50 feet into the water, and we'll count that. But I don't know if that's going to work. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, it will be something to watch. And talking with Representative Fraley, he's going to keep a close eye on it, because this is definitely going to impact Iredell County, since we probably have as much shoreline on Lake Norman and Lake Lookout as about any county in our area for sure. So those are just some of the things that we talked about. We will progress farther as the year comes on us, and get ready for our big push probably in actually the late winter, early spring of 19, when the long session comes in, and we'll set new legislative goals on that side.
Well, it just goes to show that it pays to be digging in and having like-minded folks in the association digging into legislation as it's passed, because stuff slips in there in the dead of night. You don't know where it comes from. It has second and third order effects that can be significant, particularly on our tax revenues. And you know, there have been the last 2 to 3 years, our sales tax revenues have been under assault by other certain parties, and it's taken a full court press by our legislative team, and I want to give hats off to them for particularly in the House with Representative Fraley and Representative Turner, to be able to block some initiatives that would have had significant detrimental effect to Iredell County revenues. So
I was
never let your guard down.
Yeah, I was originally told at this meeting that it would be becoming enacted in 1st of July, and it had passed, and so we were going to lose that. I got that news the same day somebody called me about some other news, and so I wasn't having a good morning, I can tell you that. But anyway, luckily, one of those didn't come to fruition, one did.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner McNeely. Moving on to new business.
Mr. Chairman, this time of year, the commissioners, we all, on behalf of the county, is spread out to go to attend invitations for events, and I had the pleasure of attending the annual Christmas banquet at Wayside on our behalf, and I just wanted to express back to the county and the taxpayers of Iredell County their sincere gratitude for the investment we make in them. And I wanted to just brag on the quality and level of emergency services we have in our entire county. Sheriff's Office and everyone else, especially this time of year through the holidays. These people work through the holidays. They're dedicated, qualified. There was a gentleman there from Salisbury that was a success story that I wanted to brag about. Our fire and EMS and first responders had a heart attack and legally died on 70 one day. And our people saved this man's life. And he came personally to thank these first responders and people. And I just, on our behalf and as a taxpayer, I just wanted to brag on the quality of emergency services we have and what they do for our county and our taxpayers. It's just a wonderful situation, and sometimes we all take those people for granted sometimes.
I think we can all say amen to that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hout.
I think we were all stretched out. I think, Marvin, you were at Cool Springs, and I was at Trinity, and I think we all experienced the same thing with a lot of dedicated people willing to help and serve.
Yes.
And I point out the EMS department has an award ceremony tomorrow night, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've taken care of unfinished business. We've done new business. Now I guess we have some monkey business. The Central Iowa Council of Government has been conducting a lengthy search for an executive director that has been nationwide in scope. And, as a testament, I think, to how well Iredell County is run, and a reflection on all of the attributes that we are the beneficiaries of. They settled on our county manager, Ron Smith, as their top candidate based on his proven track record and experience and knowledge about local government needs and the solutions that we're trying to work to find to deal with challenges of growth and of changing workforce demands, as well as demand for services. So achieving that balance and finding a sweet spot that maintains a solid financial footing is something that he's been extremely successful in achieving. And they recognize that, in the Central Carolina Council of Government's job is to provide assistance to member counties, to give them insight into how to best approach the various challenges that we all face together, and that we also have some unique challenges. So they look to see, I think, a great example, and decided, well, if we're going to lead, we've got to find somebody who has trod the path and been successful. And so we are sad to lose Ron, but if you're going to lose him anywhere, this is the place to lose him too. It's not another county, and it's not out of state. It's not down east at the state level, but it's going to be very close, and he can continue to, we hope, reside in Iredell County. And so we expect that the services we get from CCOG will expand and improve in scope and depth with his knowledge and direction of the staff. And so it's we do expect sort of a return on investment, not only in terms of the dues that we pay CCOG, but now in terms of us ponying up the best county manager in the region to be able to share the wealth. So with that being said, Mr. Smith has tendered his formal notice at this time, and his resignation will be effective on January the 5th, 2018, and we will have opportunities. He's given us a very limited time period to be able to plan roasts and other such, but I'll leave all of that to our very capable staff, who I'm sure will ensure that he is appropriately fitted and also sent off in fine form. At this time, I will turn the dais over to our county manager, Ron Smith. I hate that I can't say that for very much longer.
Well, I don't really have much to say other than, and bear with me if I don't talk fast. This county, I've grown up as a professional in this county. I've been here since '96. I may have taken a couple breaks here and there, but always for good opportunities, but better opportunities brought me back. And the relationships that I've made and the people that I've worked for, worked with, and have gotten to know over the years have made a lasting impression on me. And I certainly would not be sitting here, and I wouldn't be going to the COG without the people that I've been associated with. And a good friend of mine tells me that every decision we make in life leads you to the next one you're going to make and leads you to where you are today. And I firmly believe that. And I've done well here, but it's not just because of me, but it's because of the people I've been surrounded with. And you're being left not just from my doing by any means, but you're being left with a great staff. Can't say enough things about them. Great board. It's certainly a bittersweet move for me. If another county would have come to talk to me and said, well, Ron, we want you to come run Catawba County or wherever, I wouldn't have said no. I would have said hell no, because we got a good thing here. But this is just an opportunity that probably I see fits my skill set pretty well. I'm a planner at heart, Matthew, Jake. It's probably what I'm best at, I think, and I kind of hope I can use that. So my thanks for the kind words. I look forward to being roasted, hopefully. We didn't do a good job with Joel when he left, so hopefully you guys do a better job with me. But thank you very much. I appreciate it, and appreciate the support from you all and the understanding. Those were 5 hard phone calls to make last week, so that was very difficult for me. But thank you, and thank you all.
Now, is that the report?
Oh, sorry.
He's checked out.
So already. I shouldn't have said any of that. Okay, for my report tonight, 3 things. I added one. I wanted to let you know that today, Candy, I believe it was, today the 911 grant application was submitted, and been talking to Representative Fraley. The chairman and I have had a conversation going with him since last week about this. So he's looking to help us in any way he can, and my experience with Representative Fraley, when he tries to help you, he does it all. He's all in. So I feel like we're in good hands. So we'll hear something back hopefully by end of January, I think. Is that right, Candy? February. So a couple months. Would someone Dave, can you make the screen come on? Unmute it. Okay, just hit unmute it, Matthew. David Salibi was out today, and I asked him to sit. Davis, up at the top. Thank you, Matt. So Salibi, he was out. He was going by Davis Hospital, and we were talking about the status. And I asked him to shoot me this picture. There's no Davis Hospital left. We can finally say it is gone. We've got a conversation or a meeting tomorrow to kind of, I guess we're going to probably wrap up the financials on it, and we'll have some action for the board to take in a couple of weeks. But gentlemen, this is a success, and almost 3 years ago is when I think it was March of 15 when that started. So I think that this is a huge success. And then finally, the inmate reduction report. I was just sitting here thinking, we're in the process of building a jail, and this report was one of those things that was documenting the efforts that were taking place to mitigate the impacts on the current jail. And I think that we're to the point now that you all can make the decision. If we can certainly keep up with this information, but if you don't want us to send it anymore or provide it, one thing about government is we'll provide you data until you're dead and gone, but we'll keep doing it. So if we'll keep up with this, but if you feel like this is something you don't need anymore, absolutely we can stop doing it. I'm sure Beth will be happy. But it's been successful because if you add up the costs that have been avoided through these efforts, and this is the extra bailiff in the jail and the assistant district attorney, this has been a success on its own, which started before we actually got into the process. So saved a ton of money, certainly offset a lot of costs. So
I think that continuing to march on collecting the data provides us justification during the budget about retaining those 2 positions. I believe that the legislature is considering adding a 6th judge to the district, which when it was originally split, the 22nd Judicial District was split between Davidson and Davie and Iredell and Alexander, and there were 11 judges, and Davidson and Davie got 6, and we got 5. And that was about a decade ago. And the numbers in terms of population and cases and all have shifted to a greater number in Iredell and Alexander. And we need some redress in that to help the court system be able to work through a backlog. But this is the kind of data that's important as we continue to evaluate judicial efficiency and be able to determine the right size of our capital outlays to support a system by encouraging that system to be as efficient as it possibly can be. So thank you, Beth, for honchoing this on a monthly basis. And it's always interesting to see the peaks and valleys. It's sort of like watching Duke Energy's output, which always increases in the summer. So, anything further?
Mr. Chairman, I just like to say on behalf of the Davis thing, I see people out on a regular basis, as you and I have talked before. And the collaborative effort between the county and the city and Mitchell, the citizens in Statesville and specifically those neighborhoods still continue to stop and say they appreciate those efforts. So I just want to let everybody know that.
Well, as Mr. Smith has said, it's been a 3-year project, and it's probably a nice Christmas present for him to be able to leave with this picture instead of what was there. You know, the process was an arduous one. If it was easy to do, it would have been done 20 years ago. But dealing with a private landowner and multitudes of attorneys and issues along the way, without getting into them, it's been quite a ride. But through the process of the City of Statesville, the Mitchell College and their endowment, and this board, and the State Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and the EPA, and our legal eagles. And I have to give a shout out to Bill Pope, who bore the brunt for this board in terms of daily interactions almost with the individual who's the landowner. But a lot of things happened along the way behind the scenes that involved subjects that we couldn't discuss openly. So it's looked like nothing was happening, but all of this took a long time to come together, and at the end of the day, it came in, from an Iredell County perspective, very close to our original budgeted amount, and the result is a significant expansion of Mitchell College's footprint and the ability of their campus to expand in the future that will serve and benefit the citizens of this county. So thank you to the staff, thank you to our council and our former council and all the members of this board, and especially Ron, for this almost monthly ordeal, which has, come to fruition. So we've already had a closed session, and we have anything else to report out on that? I think
Did you want to go back in for personnel?
Yeah, the personnel piece. We didn't finish. Yeah. Okay. You want to hit the personnel?
In closed session.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, at this time, we will resume with a closed session to discuss personnel items pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, subsection A6.
The 19th, you mean?
No, until 9 o'clock on Tuesday, the 12th.
What day is that?
Just
I'll just
close session.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Now,
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
discuss that employees dinner or not? Is that a surprise?
What now?
Dee Snyder.
Oh, no.
Great.
I don't know if I can do it, Tommy.
Okay, we will now resume an open session. No decisions to announce following our closed session, but we will be recessing until 9 a.m. on Tuesday, December the 12th. Shall we say in the back room, Commissioners' meeting room. Is there a motion to recess?
Recess. So
Okay.
moved, Mr.
So
Chairman.
moved. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
We're not gonna take
Notice in the paper for the public hearing.
Ron. A really, really good impression.
Really?
Because that goes out